What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 6 of the BamaCollegeTake. My name is Jackson Tingle. I'm your host. In today's episode, we're going to get into the LSU game breakdown and then some film analysis from that. And then at the end, we're going to have another special guest picker and have our game day pick'ems. Not a lot of games really this week. Not really were appealing. It's kind of more quality over quantity. I think there was about 5 or 6. So, but before we get into today's episode, just a couple things of note. Bama basketball with a huge win in Madison Square Garden versus number 5. St. John's bumped us up to number 8 in the rankings. This Thursday, we take on number 2 Purdue, who is preseason ranked number 1. So we got number 2 versus number 8 in Coleman Coliseum. Going to be a huge game for Bama basketball. They're kind of like our football season was. They're in a huge tough stretch right now. Other than that, only other thing I have to note is 5-star inside offensive lineman Maxwell Hiller has been predicted to the University of Alabama. He's been crystal balled by the VP of recruiting at On3. I believe he works at On3. Yeah, at On3, Steve Wiltfong, Fong Bomb, as they call it. He's been predicted to Alabama. Number 1 inside offensive lineman in the class of 2027. So if we could get him, that would be huge. We need as many offensive lineman recruits as we can get. But other than that, let's get into today's episode. All right, I've got a lot to say about this LSU game, so I'm going to try to be quick with it, but just a lot to say. I'll try to keep it brief the best I can, but this was a classic Grumble win. And if you're an a lifelong Alabama fan, you kind of know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you might not know what I'm talking about. But this was a classic Grumble win. We found a way to win, but people were still complaining about it. Under Saban, spoiled, people would complain about 30-plus point different wins. Like we would win games by 30-plus points, and people would still find a way to complain because it wasn't good enough for Saban. That's kind of came back drawn down a little bit under DeBoer because we've just played in more. It's kind of backed up a little bit more just because we play in so many one possession games under Coach DeBoer, but it's still there. This was a 2-possession game, and there's 2 things we can confirm so far this season. Number 1 is we found ways to win. And that's kind of all that matters in college football nowadays. The nature of college football has changed. You're not really going to, especially for Alabama, you're not going to have games like you did with Saban where it's a 30-plus point win and, Nick Saban's pissed off because the second-string defense wasn't good enough. It's not how it's going to be. And 2, we can't run the football. Probably won't be able to all season. So we still win the game yet, but yet there's this weird vibe to it, kind of. This grumble to it. Like I said, so a classic grumble win is what we had. And because I guarantee you there's a bunch of Bama fans who have said, yeah, we won, but. Yeah, we won, but. And then something about the run game. Yeah, we won, but. And then, something about Ryan Grubb's play calling on first down. I guarantee you at church on Sunday or at work on Monday, a bunch of Bama fans were doing that. Yeah, we won, but. And then, fill in the blank. But you know what? It's kind of like that is such a privileged position to be in. It really is. But it's you gotta just realize that the nature of college football and the nature of Alabama football has changed. You still find ways to win. That's kind of all that matters to the playoff committee. That's what Alabama fans want, is to be in the playoffs to win a national championship game. The nature of college football has changed. It's just a privileged position to be in, because you know how much they would love to be in that position in Tallahassee, Florida, or in Clemson, South Carolina right now, or in even a couple hours down the road down in Auburn, Alabama. You know how much they would love to be in the position that we're in. Yeah, we won, but still in the playoffs as of right now, as long as you don't screw up the rest of the season, So there needs to kind of the grumble wins kind of need to stop, honestly, because like those teams, those other programs would love to be in the position that we're in, but the Bama folks don't care. They don't care. I mean, let's just be honest. I think it should change. Is it going to? I don't think it is. There's always going to be some type of grumble to it. People are just not going to be satisfied. But let's just talk more about this LSU game. The margin in this game kind of felt bigger than it was all night. There's a couple reasons why. One is Ty Simpson missed a couple deep balls, not by multiple stride lengths, not nothing crazy. Kind of just by a fingertip or so. And so therefore you're kind of like, okay, he'll get the next one. He barely missed that one. He'll get the next one, and then he doesn't, and then he misses Latier Brooks by a fingertip, misses Jeremy Bernard by a fingertip, and just there was multiple times that happened in this LSU game. You're kind of like, all right, he'll hit the next one, then he doesn't. So you're kind of sitting there thinking, okay, it's 20-9. If they hit any of those completions that they just missed, or any combination of these deep balls that we just missed, it's more than likely 35-9, something like that. But we didn't. So you've got multiple missed explosive pass plays, and yet we still had 6 pass plays of 20 yards or more. LSU had 1. We had 6. We still had half a dozen, even with those explosive plays that we kind of need to make. Even though we missed them, we still had 6 pass plays of 20 yards or more. So you kind of feel like there were all these missed opportunities, because there were, but you still had 6 of them, and that's important, because you look at some of these other teams in the country. LSU's a great example of it, actually. Who can't run the football. They can't run the football, so they're kind of their whole offensive team kind of just shuts down. But there's so many teams in the country who can't run the football. LSU's a great example, like I said, us included in that. And because of that, it kind of shaves off of their pass game in return, and it kind of shaves off their pass game production, because you kind of need the run game to keep the defense on their toes and be able to pass the football. But you watch Alabama, you watch us, and the only thing that shaves off our pass game production is deep balls that need to be completed, that you kind of just miss by a fingertip or so. And these are passes in the pass game. These are balls in the pass game that need to be completed in order for us to have the in order for our offensive profile to be what it can be, and for our national championship hopes to be what we want them to be, and can be, if we make these plays. So, but they're not being completed. So it's a 20-9 game. Let me scroll up a little bit. Just kidding, I can't. It's 20-9, and let me get that Dell. I don't know, nobody cares about Dell. It's a 20-9 game that could have easily been 38, 35-9 if we hit some explosive pass plays. But the run game at this point it's kind of is what it is in the run game. If we're being honest, kind of is what it is. It's November. We have one of the best offensive coaching staffs in the country, and we had one of the worst rushing performances all year. And it's November. So it kind of just is what it is in the run game. But our pass game doesn't shut down when we can't run the football. And that's kind of what differentiates us from all these other teams in the country, like LSU. We still have production in the pass game. So, with that being said, we're a flawed contending team because we can't run the football. We're a flawed contending team. Fortunately, every team has flaws. This just happens to be ours. We needed two things to win this game: the pass rush and the run game. We didn't have the run game, but the pass rush is continuing to come along, right? We saw that in this game, in the South Carolina game. Pass rush, defensive line has and linebackers have been great. Our pass game has really stepped up. Our run game, not so much. Run game, not so much. We get the first game, but not so much the second game when it comes to the run game. We held LSU to. Our defense played great. We held LSU to 5 of 14 on third down. Phenomenal. 7 tackles for loss. LSU had 4 red zone trips. 0 touchdowns. That's great. That is phenomenal. We are consistently making 24, 27 points good enough solely because of our red zone defense. Our red zone defense has been the most unreported important factor all year. This team, the motto in practice, that if you've seen clips of it in practice for our defense, is make them snap it again. That's their motto. Make them snap it again. Make them snap it again. Make them snap it again. Who cares? The ball's on the 2-yard line. Make them snap it again. So there's there's a difference in someone breaking a long run or pass play on you for a touchdown than someone making a long run play or pass play and getting pushed out of bounds at the 7-yard line. Make them snap it again. Is it first and goal? If they get it to the 7-yard line, is it first and goal? Yes, it is. But every single time you make your opponent snap it again, no matter how close they are to scoring, it gives them one more shot to screw it up. It gives them one more chance to fumble the football, one more chance to jump off sides, one more chance to throw an interception, one more chance for you to get another stop and force 4th down. So make them snap it again, and we're just disproportionately better at that than most other teams in the country, and so it's in the red zone where we've been winning games recently. So our defense has been great. A couple takeaways. LSU limited to 9 points and 4 red zone trips. Like I said, shout out to the defense and defensive staff on that. Passes of 20+ yards. Alabama 6, LSU 1. Like I said. Penalties. The crowd was electric. That was a great environment. The crowd really stepped up when they needed to. Penalties: Alabama 2 for 25 yards, LSU 10 for 74 yards. Multiple false starts. Great environment in Bryant-Denny for this LSU game. We really needed that. That really was a factor. It really affected them. You could see it. You see it from the penalties. So, our defense has also been insanely aggressive when it comes to turnover. Kane Womack has really harped on these guys about punching the football out, ripping the football out, doing whatever it takes to force a turnover. Because that's kind of how you win games is with turnovers. If you can take a possession away from the other team and give it to your offense, that's great. That's how you win a football game, more times than not. Bama ranks 3rd in the nation in turnovers. We have 6 turnovers and we rank 3rd in the country. But for the playoffs and championship wise, if we get there, I don't want to speak too soon, especially after the season we had last year. But if we get there, if we want to get there, all right, we have a couple must-haves, and those must-haves are elite red zone defense, which we got. Explosive plays, which are there, but we kind of missed by a fingertip or two, and then the pass rush, which is coming along. Yanze Pierre, London Simmons, LT Overton. We don't even, Quay Russaw could be back anytime soon. He's a freak of nature and is a phenomenal football player, and we don't even have him right now. So our pass rush needs to be there. Our run game really needs to be there. Kind of 4 things that we need, but at this point, like I said, it kind of just is what it is. But if we continue to do these things and win the critical games, kind of like South Carolina, Missouri, Georgia. Win the critical games, then we can make a playoff run. We go as far. We can go as far as we want if we do those things, in my opinion. So kind of just gonna break down, give individual scores right now for each offensive, defensive production. Passing game, Ty looked pretty good. Only one touchdown throw to Hollywood, but that came in the 2-minute drill. That was a greatly and phenomenally ran 2-minute drill. 21 for 35. I think that comes out to like 60% pass completion rate. 277 yards. So another pretty really good game from Ty. Love what I'm seeing from him. Like I said, there were a couple miss explosive plays that kind of could have, instead of a 20-9, score, we're in the 30s, 30-9. So because of those missed plays, which we kind of, like I said, we're going to need those if we want to make a run. But because we kind of missed a couple of those in this game, I'm gonna give Ty a B plus. He also had a fumble that was kind of more on the offensive line than it was Ty. Kind of. They gave him time, but the pocket broke down. It broke down pretty easily, but at the same time, Ty kind of needs to feel that and kind of take off with it, and scramble and get what he can or throw it away. Or you can't take a sack or fumble the football like he did. So I'm gonna go B plus in the pass game this week. Rushing game, that's 2 weeks in a row. Daniel Hill was our leading rusher, 21 yards. Isn't that great? 21 yards. It's the most rushing yards that we had this game. Like I said, at this point, it kind of just is what it is. Obviously, DeBoer is a pass first. DeBoer and Grubb, they run a pass first offense, right? But SEC, you need to run the football. I've said it all year. I'll continue to say it. We kind of need it to step up a little bit, but and I say that we need it, but like I said, unlike these other teams in the country that can't run the football, like LSU, our passing game doesn't shut down because of it. So, it kind of just is what it is. It would be great to see it, but we're not dying without it so far. So, but specifically for this LSU game, I'm gonna go C minus. Just we had a rushing touchdown, but we were in the red zone, and it takes 2 to 3 guys to tackle Daniel Hill, unless it takes one guy, locking onto his ankles to drag him down. I would love to see some kind of, see him more involved in like a screenplay on the outside boundaries of the field to kind of make these corners and safeties try to tackle him, because the linebackers and defensive linemen, they can tackle Daniel Hill. He's a big guy, but they can tackle him. But those those DBs and those safeties, they don't want to tackle him. I would go ahead and tell you that. He's 230 pounds, something like that. They don't want to tackle him alone. Trust me, they don't. So I would love to see him more involved in that. But I'm giving the run game a C. I think I said C minus. I honestly can't remember what I said. Is what I gave them. Receiving, wasn't terrible. Receivers were there. Not a whole lot of production like I kind of wanted them to do. But nonetheless, like I said, a couple missed balls from Ty that makes his stat sheet look a lot different. If he hits those, if he doesn't miss them by a fingertip or two. Drew Bernard continues to be a leader. Love what I'm seeing from him. I love Lachie Brooks continues to just make it play after play after play. Just I love what I'm seeing from this kid. I love it. Plays bigger than he is. True freshman, love it. Ryan Williams, not a great game, but he scored that touchdown when we needed it. That was a crucial touchdown, and he delivered. Him and Ty, they delivered. So, and then Isaiah Horton, not much production out of him in the last 2 weeks, but let me tell you, that catch he did make, absolute mossed that DB. Firm, strong hands. The ball's in the air. Isaiah Horton's coming down with it. You love to see. You got to have a guy like that. You have to have a guy like that where if you throw it up and it's a 50-50 ball, you have a guy with like Isaiah Horton with his big frame and those firm, strong hands. He's more than likely going to come down with the football. So you got to have a guy like that. But receivers, I'm gonna go with a B B. I was about to go B minus, but like I said, I gave Ty a B plus, and there was a lot of missed opportunities for these receivers, which kind of affected them. So I'm not gonna punish them for that. So I'm gonna go with a B. Defense, A plus. You know what? I'm gonna do it. A plus. They haven't had an A plus all year from me, and so I'm gonna give it to them. 4 red zone trips, 9 points is what LSU gets. And like I said, just so aggressive recently, forcing turnover after turnover. Nakai Hillgreen, highest rated linebacker in the country over the weekend, looked great. He not only did he force a fumble, but he recovered it. He was the one that recovered it. There was another forced fumble. I think it was Bray Hubbard. We didn't recover it. Kind of got an LSU bounce, but nonetheless, still. And then London Simmons, I think, I don't know. Yanze Pierre had a forced fumble, a strip sack at the end of the game, which was huge. So, and then we got a ton of guys stepping up. Red Morgan, Dijon Lee, Noah Carter, Xavier Mincy, Jordan Renaud. These guys are stepping up when we need them to. Our defense has been so aggressive recently and kind of bailed us out the last couple of weeks, which they've looked. South Carolina and LSU, we don't win these games without our defense playing like they do. And like I said, they're kind of making 27, 24-point games. If our offense scores 24 points in a game, our defense has been making it enough to win. Which, like I said, nature of college football, it's all you need. So, I'm not going to get into special teams. Not much to miss field goal from Talty there. That would have been really good to have. He needs to. He's just been kind of inconsistent. Just kind of needs to be more confident in himself. But with this being all, I'm wrapped up here. So we're going to get into the film analysis part, and then after that we're going to have our guest picker. So I'll try to keep. I know that was kind of lengthy there than usual. So I'll try to keep the film analysis quick, but let's get into the film. All right, welcome to the film breakdown of the LSU game. I'm going to try to keep it brief. Like I said, I might do 2 plays, I might do 3. But right here, this is the opening drive. We went for it on 4th down. We didn't get it. So let's kind of show you why we didn't get it, right? All of these linemen kind of do a pretty good job. Proctor does a good job. Cuevas does a good job here. Not a great job by Cuevas. Could have been better, but he does his job well enough for the play to give the chance of play to happen like it should. Brailsford does a great job, super quick, super athletic, great job. He starts driving this linebacker down the field. Once I start playing it, you'll see it. Dewberry right here, Brailsford's here, Dewberry right here. The run's kind of going away from here. It's designed to go away from here. So these two guys do a pretty good job, but their job's not too terribly important. It's still important, I shouldn't say that, but they do a well enough job to give the play a chance to develop. Again, Roberts right here doesn't do a great job, but again, he does his job well enough to get 1 yard, right, to get the first down. Okay, so let's watch Wilkin Formby. Okay, let's see if Wilkin Formby gives the chance to play to develop like it should to get 1 yard, right? Before I play it though, so Formby's job, it's not this D lineman here. It's not him. He's not supposed to duo with Roberts on this lineman here. His job is to block this linebacker, right? Linemen should be excited to block a linebacker or a DB because it's not one of these guys up front. This is kind of big on big, strong on strong. This is a chance for these linemen to kind of show their strength off and their athleticism off when they get to block a linebacker, when they get to block a safety, or when they get to block a cornerback, right? So Wilkins' job right here is this play side linebacker, right? I think it's Wes Weeks. So direct snap to Miller, right? So play doesn't take, it's supposed to not take forever, right? That's why it's a direct snap. Formby's right here, right? Watch Formby. Just whiffs that linebacker. Takes a terrible angle. Watch his angle. Watch the angle. That's why he misses this block, because this linebacker is reading the running back, and so he sees Jam Miller, take the direct snap, so he knows it's a run play. He's crashing down the middle, right? He's, run play, boom, go, right? And then, Formby's angle just misses his assignment. Jam Miller has to, the hole gets clogged up. Jam Miller has to bounce it outside. Because, Cuevas' guy, Miller just kind of just runs around him, right? And so if Formby blocks it, Roberts could have done a better job. If Formby blocks his guy here, so say this guy's blocked, right? That's a cornerback. That's a DB. Jam Miller wins that 9 times out of 10, right? We get the first down, but instead we get stopped, and the first drive ends on a 4th and 1. All right, welcome to the next play. We're gonna kind of break down here. Not this play, the next one. This was a great play from Bray Hubbard. Watch Bray right here. Watch his eye. You can kind of see. Well, I say watch his eyes. You can't see his eyes, but you can from this angle you get a gist of where they're looking at. So, watch Bray right here. He does a really good job of, well, it kind of goes off of him, but he does a really good job of reading the quarterback. You're in the red zone, right? So, not close. They're still on the 8-yard line right here. So, what the DBs are taught, corners and safety, as they get closer, I think that's Xavier Brown right there. He's kind of playing with his toes on the goal line. Dijon Lee's kind of not, but he doesn't have a receiver out here, so he kind of needs to play down and to set the edge in a run play. But what the DBs are taught, and when the other teams in the red zone, is to play on the goal line, because you can make it's easier to go back on a play, make a play back here, and it's kind of not as important, because all you got to do is cross the line right here and you get a touchdown. So they're taught to play on the goal line, right? So Bray's up on the goal line. He's reading the cornerback, right? He's watching Garrett Nussmeier's eyes. He's not worried about this motion. He's not worried. He probably sees the pass set from the lineman. And he just does a good job of reading Garrett Nussmeier right here. Nussmeier kind of just he looks here, nobody's open. He comes back to his next target, and Bray should have been a pick. Just a really good job of reading the quarterback. Playing simple, just kind of simple technique and simple football, and just does a good job of doing what he's taught to do right there. All right, this next play here is a guy who I think is going to be a really good player for us if we're able to retain him. Red Morgan, young guy, redshirt freshman, I think. Might be a sophomore. I'm very positive he's a redshirt freshman. If we can retain him, he's going to be a pretty good player for us. I think he's going to develop well under Kalen DeBoer and under Coach Womack. Even if Coach Womack goes somewhere else, I think he's still going to develop well here under Coach DeBoer. So let's just watch it. He's not getting a ton of playing time, right? So he needs to capitalize. He needs to take every advantage he gets when he's on the field, right? The coaches trust you enough to be on the football field as a young player, and if you're not going to make a huge play, at least do your job. Well, he does his job here, right? But it's also a really good play. So let's watch Red Morgan here. It's a design screenplay from it's play action. So good job of not kind of taking the bait and kind of crashing on the run. It's a screenplay from LSU. it's kind of a triple option. So it's a triple option now that I watch it. So Michael Van Buren can hand it off here. What he's doing is he's reading. I think he's reading Nakai Hilgren here. Yeah, he's reading Nakai Hilgren here. He kind of sees Hilgren kind of float back this way, so he takes off running it, and then Hilgren stops. Starts working his way back. So then Van Buren floats it out here. Well, Red Morgan the whole time he's right here. He's reading the quarterback. He's not worried about this guy. Receivers all what makes a good receiver is not only can they catch the ball, can they are they elusive, are they explosive, can they score touchdowns. You got to be able to pass block. Most receivers don't want to. Most receivers want to be flashy. Most receivers want to catch touchdowns and celebrate, and that's all they want to do. They don't want to do the nasty blocking things it takes to make a good receiver. So it is more times than not an advantage to a DB when that's the case. And so, you can see this receiver here, chopping his feet, not being aggressive, not going to block. So Red Morgan takes advantage of that, rips, ducks his shoulder here, rips around. He's got great speed, and then just makes a really good play and for a loss. Great play from Red Morgan there. One of the toughest things to do, especially when there's a bigger guy out there. But one of the toughest things to do as a DB is to, when it's a design screenplay, is to make the tackle yourself. You're really what they want from Red Morgan here. Like I said, if you're a young guy and you get put on the field because the coaches trust you, it's great for you to make a good play. But just doing your job is why they trust you. So really, what his job is to do here is to take this block on, but the receiver really never engages in the block in the first place. So say he does. Red Morgan's job is to set the edge, not let this receiver get around him on the outside right here. It's kind of why he's working out, right? It's kind of why he's working out. Just set the edge, so your safety here is crashing down, your linebacker, your D-line, or coming towards you. So the boundaries, set the boundary, because all your help is inside. All your help is on the inside. So, but Red Morgan starts working outside to do that, which is his job, right? But so he does his job, but he makes a good play because this receiver he doesn't want to block him. Red uses his speed, he uses his aggressiveness. He gets downhill and he makes a great play for loss. So really good play from Red Morgan right there. That's the last play I got. So let's go ahead and get into our game day pick'ems with our guest picker. All right, everyone, welcome to the game day pick'em segment. We're here with our special guest picker this week, Mr. Emery Wagner. How you doing, Emery?
Doing good, man. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. We appreciate you for being here. We know you're a busy guy. 36 on the ACT. That's hard to come by. You don't do that by not having a busy schedule. Emery, you played football. You played receiver, right? So you're a bit of a ball knower. Ball.
Yeah, I dabbled in high school. Yeah.
You dabbled. You mossed a 5-star, didn't you?
Yeah, in practice, but
yeah, it still counts. That counts.
There's a huddle on it somewhere I can find.
You got to represent for us, All right, we appreciate you being on here, Emery. Let's go ahead and get into it. We got our first game here. It's number 3 Texas A&M versus South Carolina. It's in College Station. Spreads A&M minus 18.5. Texas A&M is just on a roll right now. In my opinion, they should be ranked second. I don't think Indiana should be. I think it should be A&M. They just have the better resume, better roster up and down. And like I said, they're on a roll. They're averaging 35.5 points per game in SEC play and allowing only 20 points per game on average. South Carolina's just been struggling lately. They had a pretty good week versus us, that little, trap game week. But, it's at College Station, like I said. I think A&M just got too much momentum right now. Their guys are playing great. Marcel Reed, Kevin Concepcion, they're playing good. Le'Veon Moss still there, so I've got the Aggies in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. That team's very good. They finally broke their 8-4 curse, so I think getting over that mental hump is going to help them probably win out. And I got them beating South Carolina. I got to go with the Aggies as well.
Yep. You think they cover? No, 18.5?
No, I think South Carolina will will show a little fight, and I don't think they'll cover.
Yeah, I mean they've got nothing to lose so far this season. Their backs are kind of against the wall the rest of this season for them, so they might have a little fight in them. I kind of agree there.
Another point.
What'd you say?
Another point about A&M. I think half their SEC matchups, or half of A&M's SEC matchups, have fired their coach, so they might see another one after this game.
Yeah. South Carolina fired Mike Shula, so.
Yeah, maybe Beamer's next. This one goes.
Well, as long as they stay away from our offensive guys, in my opinion, I don't care who they get rid of.
Yeah.
All right, next game here we got Pittsburgh, ranked 23rd, versus Notre Dame. It's in South Bend. Or no, I'm sorry, it's in Pittsburgh. College Game Day is going to be there. Pat McAfee's homecoming. 9th ranked Notre Dame. Spreads Notre Dame 10.5. Notre Dame's quarterback, it's C.J. Carr, that's his name, right? I believe. He's got 2,275 passing yards, over 2,275 passing yards so far this season. 19 touchdowns so far. In Pittsburgh, they benched. Who was it? He transferred from Alabama. Eli Holstein is who they benched. Started a true freshman over him. They've been kind of figuring out their season piece by piece as they go along. I think this is just another matchup where Pittsburgh doesn't have enough. Kind of like South Carolina doesn't have enough with A&M. I've got Notre Dame. I've got the Irish. I think they cover too. Pittsburgh, they're in the ACC. ACC's all over the place right now. So I've got Notre Dame in this one. I think they're just overall the better team. Jeremiah Love has been great recently. So I've got the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. Notre Dame's got everything to gain. Pitt's got really nothing to lose. No, Notre Dame knows that they don't have another game they can afford to lose to make the college football playoffs. And I think they kind of rank Pitt just to kind of add some energy to this matchup and give Notre Dame a quote-unquote ranked win. So I don't think they really deserve to be ranked, and I think Notre Dame should easily handle business, and I think they'll cover as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this is a game where they give Notre Dame a ranked win, kind of like you said, like Pittsburgh, they're kind of the rest of their seasons, whatever, probably not going to make the playoffs. But Notre Dame's they gotta win this to stay in it. So I think that definitely plays a factor. All right, moving on here. It's USC versus Iowa. It's in Los Angeles at USC. Iowa coming off that very close loss to Oregon. I actually last week's episode I picked Iowa to upset Oregon and almost happened. So that would have been great to have under my belt to, I like to say I know ball, so that would have helped to, establish that. But it's going to be like the weather forecast for this game is heavy rain, and that's kind of the game that Iowa just came off of from Oregon. So they might, play a little better, honestly, than USC. But USC, Lincoln Riley, that's another team that's got it going now. Jaden Mayava, their quarterback, honestly, at one point in the season, he was kind of in the Heisman talks. He's looked really good. Their wide receiver room, led by Mekhi Lemon, he's looked great. Pairs really good with Jaden Mayava. So give me Lincoln Riley and the Trojans in this one. I don't know if they cover, but I've got USC.
Yeah, looking at that matchup after Oregon last week, I think Iowa's going to be playing, a little angry, a little chip on their shoulder. We're seconds from beating a very good or highly ranked Oregon. Let me rephrase that. Last week, and I think, it's a classic Big Ten matchup. One team has a good offense, one team has a good defense, so it's just, kind of a mismatch. But I think Iowa takes care of business, and I think they'll cover on this one.
Yeah. I've got like I said, I got USC. I don't think they cover solely just because of the weather. I think the heavy rain is going to play. It's going to affect the passing game for both teams. But USC really they ran the ball down Michigan's throat in the Coliseum when Michigan came there and played. So I think they're definitely capable of adapting to not being able to utilize their pass game. But all right, get a couple games left. Next we got Ole Miss. Ole Miss versus Florida. I think the winner of this game gets Lane Kiffin. Spreads Ole Miss 15.5. It's in Oxford. Florida just looked absolutely terrible last week. Benched DJ Lagway, So I don't really know what their plan is. With the quarterback play, and because of that, I've got Ole Miss. I probably would have taken Ole Miss anyway. Lane Kiffin, he's got them going, and Florida just looked. They've really just had a terrible season. They're honestly, I want to say they're kind of the Florida State from last season, but Florida State's kind of the Florida State again from last season. So, I've got Ole Miss in this one. Trinidad Chambliss, I think, is gonna whoever Florida plays at quarterback it's not gonna matter. I think Trinidad Chambliss is gonna, have the better quarterback play. So I've got Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think there might have been a scenario where I would have taken Florida if I didn't watch what they did last week. I mean, like coming off the Georgia game, close game to Georgia, Flagway played pretty bad, and they still made it that close. So, I think if they can clean up, I bet they can take Ole Miss. But after that last week, you just gotta say there's no hope. And Ole Miss can be playing mad. They got knocked out the playoffs last year, or playoff contention because of Florida. And I think Ole Miss, especially being a home game, will take care of business and kind of coast into the playoffs.
Yep. All right, second to last game here. We're almost got it wrapped up here. Georgia versus Texas, number 5 versus number 10. It's in Athens. The spread's Georgia -6. Like almost every site I looked at there was no it wasn't 6.5. It wasn't 5.6 or 5.5. It was just straight up 6. So this is a game. A lot of people are saying Texas needs this game more than I mean, obviously they kind of do more than Georgia because if they lose this game, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. A lot of people are taking Texas, but it's in Athens, like I said, and I think we learned a lot about Georgia the last couple of weeks. And that's they always find a way. Whether that's the refs help them out, whether they just have pure grit and determination, kind of like they did with Ole Miss. With a little bit of the refs' help there also. So I've got Georgia, and I think this ultimately this game's kind of going to shake up the playoff picture right now. I don't think Texas is. I think Texas is going to be the first team out. And I can see a world where they still make it if they beat Texas A&M, which I think they might have that game at home. So that might be an easier task than going to Athens and taking down Georgia. But give me the Bulldogs in this one. I think they just, Arch Manning hasn't panned out to be, what people have thought he's going to be. So I've got Georgia in this one.
Yeah, that's a big matchup. I think, looking at what happened last year, Georgia walked into Austin to a much better Texas team. And I'd say this Georgia team is probably better than their team last year, especially at the quarterback position. But Texas has looked improved, at least over the past few weeks. Arch Manning's not that he's hyped up to what he is, but he's been playing like a solid quarterback these last few games. Check down Merchant or not, he's still putting up good stats, playing careful. But I think that Texas defense is gonna make the difference. Those two edge rushers, I think Colin Simmons and I got Austin something or Anthony Hill. Yeah, those two guys are absolutely absurd, and I think Texas scrapes by winning this one. I think Texas wins with the SEC help. I think the SEC is gonna try to squeeze as many teams as possible.
Yeah. Yep. I meant to ask this last on that last slide, but I mean, do you think if Florida does somehow beat Ole Miss, maybe Lane Kiffin makes the switch there? No.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Because I guess I wouldn't eliminate him from playoff contention. He'd probably still get in, but
yeah. I mean, they've only lost to Georgia, right?
Yeah, so then they get Mississippi State after, so I guess they're pretty much guaranteed to get in.
Yeah.
But if something were to happen, they didn't make the playoffs, I could see them jumping ship because, that changes coaching availability. If you're not making the playoffs, it's, I got to say it's reasonable to go to a different program. But,
right.
And I think he stays in Ole Miss. I think it's a perfect place for him. Yeah. I think it matches his personality. And, he can keep going 10-2 there every year, and they'll probably do it on the statue. But Florida's has a deranged mindset that they're contenders every year and deserve to be. So they'll run him out of town if he does pretty well for several years.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying Florida, they've got they're kind of poised for a good hire because of all the NIL donors, the top notch facilities they just got, things like that. But don't don't overlook Ole Miss in the NIL category. They've got money there, and Lane's got. I think he's got free control, and he can do whatever he wants to do. So I kind of agree. I don't think he's going to leave Oxford, but who knows? Maybe his daughter falls in love with the Florida linebacker, and they who knows. All right, last game. Already made it through. I think we only had about 6 games this week, so it wasn't much of a big slate, honestly. Not too many interesting games,
Big games though, not a lot.
Yeah. More quality over quantity, but obviously we've got the number 4 ranked Crimson Tide taking on the number 11 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Spreads Bama 6.5. I'm gonna yap a little bit more on this one, Emory, just because it's Bama. Obviously, I'm gonna go ahead and click it. I've got Bama. Oklahoma is 10-11 under Venables when they're not playing in Norman, Oklahoma. And I also think Oklahoma needs a better game from Mateer, especially since that Tennessee game. That Tennessee game was kind of a fluke, honestly. Did they even score an offensive touchdown that game? I think they just had one defensive touchdown. That was it. So it's hard to remember.
Got some, but I think it's more the running backs' work.
Yeah,
I know they had some turnovers in the red zone too. So
yeah, it was more the running back, the run game, and then also the defense scored a touchdown. So they got to have a much better game from him, regardless, if they want to win this game. And I expect their offense to kind of utilize him more in the run game because mobile quarterbacks it seems to be our weakness. I think they know that. But also touching back on their run game, I think their run game's kind of finding themselves. They kind of got off to a slow start, kind of like us, but unlike us, they've kind of found themselves in the last few weeks. Their O line's really turned it on. Bunch of young guys on that line too, and they also have a great run game, run defense. They rank 4th in the nation in run defense, but I like that. I like that they have a good run defense. Because we haven't been able to run the ball all year, so it really doesn't matter. It's strength on weakness, so I like that. Because we don't really rely on the run game, even though we might try to. It just ends up throughout the game we can't run the ball, so we kind of overcome our weakness and utilize the pass game more. So I like that strength on weakness there. Because a lot of people are saying that's going to be a big factor is, Oklahoma, they've got this really good run defense, but, it doesn't matter. We can run the ball versus LSU. We can run the ball versus South Carolina. We haven't been able to run the ball all year. I think we've had one game with over 100 rushing yards, and that was Vanderbilt. So I don't think it matters. So I like that stat. So I think we're going to have to, Oklahoma's going to have to rely on their pass game more than anything. But they do have a really good defensive front. So even though we might not be able to run the ball, we still have to give Ty some time back there in the pocket, or else he's going to get pressured, and then the pass game's not going to be working, and the run game's not going to be working. So you got to get our O line is going to be a factor. It has to be a factor if we want to win this game. And one thing I'm kind of worried about, he kind of proves me wrong each week. I kind of just get a little worried about it. We haven't really seen a poor performance from Ty at all this year, and a lot of people are expecting him to just have one eventually, kind of like all quarterbacks do, and he hasn't had one yet this year. I hope it's not, this game. I hope it's not all year. But on the flip side of that, I think we're due in the air this game. The two best pass attacks we've seen, or pass defensive we've seen all year, we got 300 passing yard, 315 passing yards, and 293 passing yards through the air. And like I said, we're going to have make Oklahoma rely on their pass defense. And so I like that. And we missed a lot of chances through the air versus LSU. A lot of Ty overthrew the ball to Jeremy Bernard, Latier Brooks one play. Jeremy Bernard twice, I think. But it wasn't like it was multiple stride lengths. Kind of like Nico, Yamalava or whatever at Tennessee last year. It was kind of just by a fingertip or two. And so that really could have made the LSU game 35-9 rather than 20-9. So if we just I don't want to say clean it up because but if we capitalize on those chances, and don't miss those chances like we did versus LSU. I think that's going to be huge this game. And just a couple. I'm done yapping after this, so it's all yours after this, Emery. But a couple impact players, I think. Yeah, obviously going to be Ty Simpson, like I said. People are banking on him to have a poor performance at some point this year. I hope it's not going to be this game. He seems to be making the correct reads, and being a great leader every week. And then I think Ryan Williams. I think he's kind of hasn't really had a crazy game so far this season, and he kind of gave Oklahoma hell last year. Got a touchdown they got called back because of that Caleb Odom. It was kind of a BS call. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Emery, but I think he's gonna have a breakout game. Yanze Pierce got to continue to he's really stepped up when we needed him to. He's going to have to pressure Mateer, make Mateer uncomfortable, especially if they try to utilize him in the run game. And also if they try to utilize him in the run game, I think Deontay Lawson, linebackers are crucial when trying to stop a running back from not only when they're trying to pass the ball, but running some kind of option, things like that. And then also just our entire offensive line, like I said. We're not able to run the ball. Oklahoma has a great run defense, so we have to be able to pass the ball. So we have to give Ty time. We've some of them have done a good job with that. Parker Brailsford's done a pretty good job all year. Proctor's done a decent, pretty good job. But all those other guys, Formby, Roberts, Jaden Roberts hasn't been bad, but Formby, Dewberry hasn't been bad. Really just Formby. Now that I think about it, Vandermark a little bit. But they just have to give Ty time to throw the football, or else we're going to be in some trouble. But I've got the Tide, obviously. Going to be, I think, our biggest game all year since Georgia. So that's all I've got, Emery. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
I'm gonna start with this defense, man. They've been turning up every week. So
yeah,
coming into the season, we have a defensive-minded or offensive-minded head coach. We picked up one of the best OCs in the country. Yet multiple weeks we've had to rely on the defense bailing us out, and I don't think that's just a backup plan every week. I think that defense just is very good, and they're not bailing us out of games. Like they're just straight up winning us the games. And one thing I've really liked seeing recently is our D-line. We're getting new guys in every play that are starting to be really good. We got London Simmons, I think's his name. He's starting to get in there pretty good.
True freshman.
Obviously, Jan's here turning in. Keon Keeley's actually starting to get some good reps in. So we're able to rotate these guys a lot, give them new reps. I love that linebacker room. They play aggressive. Nikhil Hill-Green was, I think, the highest rated linebacker in college football last week. And I love how they attack the football. I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game. I think they're going to force some turnovers. I think that D-line's going to put Mateer under pressure. He's going to make some bad throws. He's really not that good of a quarterback. I hate to say it, but I think he has more interceptions than touchdowns. You can part that maybe due to his hand surgery, but looked pretty rough against Texas. They didn't play all that great against Oklahoma. That's more of a defensive showing. And then so I think our defense holds them down, gives our offense time to work. And I'm worried about our offense. I think they're going to play slow. I think, I doubt the run game. This isn't the game where the run game's going to blow up. Their defensive line is pretty solid. I think Ty's going to have to make really smart throws, really quick throws. I think that O-line's a big question mark. But I think their secondary is nowhere near as good as the defensive front. So I think, going through the air, attacking them, Ty just making good reads. Because, it took Oklahoma a strip sack taken to the house and 2 other turnovers, one in the red zone, to beat Tennessee by a score. So, take those factors out, clean up our offense, don't make turnovers like they did. I think we handled business, and, also these players are playing pissed off. They're the reason we didn't make the playoffs this year, and we got a good chance to return the favor this year and pretty much lock our spot in the playoffs because play this game, we're guaranteed to go to the SC championship pretty much. It's like a 99.9% chance. I think this team wins. I think we cover, and I think it's going to be one of the better games of the year.
Yeah. I like what you said about the defense. We've really had to rely on them to kind of bail us out the South Carolina game. Although in that South Carolina game we did have 2 really good drives by Ty in the offense to win that game at the end. But our defense is what kept us in it. And also the LSU game last week, because like you said, we are so good at forcing turnovers. Kane Womack has these guys punching the football out, ripping the football out, doing whatever it takes to, like we might not recover the ball, but like we're still forcing fumbles, and I love to see that we're just so aggressive on defense. Bray Hubbard's aggressive, and then like you said, that linebacker room's played really good. Veteran linebacker room, Deontay Lawson Senior, Nakai Hill-Green Senior, Justin Jefferson Senior, really good guys, and then. Also on the just the touch on the defensive line, like you said, Landon Simmons. He, at one point, he was like you said that about Nakai Hill-Green being rated the best linebacker last week. At one point in the season, Landon Simmons was rated the best freshman defensive lineman because he's a true freshman. He's a 3-star. Yeah, and then LT Overton, Jan Zapier. And then we got all these, those 3 guys, and hopefully we get Quay Russaw back. So, that just adds another. Oh. And then another guy that, kind of he's been quiet all season, but last game he had a really good game was freshman Noah Carter. That guy, he's a little, me and Cole were talking about this in the stands. He looks kind of little on the field, but that's good because if you watch him, when he goes out there, they'll put Noah Carter on the side of the slower offensive line, like the big offensive lineman, because he's kind of smaller because he's quick, and so he can really get around them. And then they'll put like Jan Zapier or whoever's on the other side on the side of the tight end, and they just kind of kind of bully that tight end as opposed to big on the other side. So yeah, I think I agree. Our defenses they've really kind of stepped it up the last 2 or 3 weeks, and hopefully they might need to do it again this game. I agree. But that's all I've got, Emery, unless you got anything else you want to add.
I'll tell you who I'm loving right now. 2 people, or 3 actually. Latavier Brooks,
yep,
Dijon Lee, and Red Morgan. All young guys. That makes me happy.
Yeah. It's actually
Jermaine Burton, but DB.
Yeah. Jermaine Burton, but at DB. It's Latavier Brooks' birthday, actually. Happy birthday, Latavier. He's probably watching, honestly. So, happy birthday.
Dear dog.
Another true freshman. Another 3-star true freshman that's really panned out. I really thought it would have been able to.
This our coaches are really good at scouting 3-stars.
Yeah.
Really trained it up.
Yeah.
As well as off the ground, big name 5-stars.
Yeah. Because I really thought Rico Scott would kind of be the guy that would play like Latavier Brooks has been playing. So, he's been great for us all year. So that's been good to see. But all right, Emery. We appreciate you being on. Like I said, life's kind of busy, so it's kind of just fun to take a break every now and then, talk some, football, especially Alabama football. So we appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see y'all next week. Eastern Illinois week, we'll have another guest picker and everything like that. We'll break down this Oklahoma game. Hopefully it goes our way. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in again, and I hope to see you next week, and Roll Tide.